Welcome everyone. We're doing a Neon Dynasty. I always think it's Destiny, but no, it's Neon Dynasty sealed set reviews. This is not for draft. This is for sealed. February 28th, I think. Some 26, 28, somewhere around there. There's an arena sealed open, and plus sealed's going to be on arena for the next until like the first week of March, and it's going to be on NTGO for a lot longer than that. And there's probably a couple more events for that one. So this will be good info if you're going to be playing for that. I'm mostly talking about best of 3 sealed, which is the only competitive limited format that exists. I know people love draft, but we don't talk about draft here. We talk about sealed. Some sealed skills transfer over from sealed to draft, but a lot of draft stuff does not transfer over to sealed. And one of the big ones is early drops. Synergy and early drops don't really exist in sealed. There is no like white-red samurai deck, as you can see here from Untitled Captain. When you play sealed, there's just white-red 23 playables that you opened. So when it comes to sealed, it's much more about individual card power level, and it's much more about 2-for-1s, and it's about having an overall game plan, and it's about removal, being able to not lose to your opponent's bombs, or your opponent's 3-drop that they slap an aura on and attack you for 5 on turn 4 when you're on the draw. You gotta have just make sure you don't lose to that stuff. And you generally don't play too many 2/2s. So from there, we're going to talk a little bit about what packs might contain. You can see on the left side, it says there's one rare mythic. Now, it could be a double-sided card, could not be, but that's going to be the slot for it. The second slot is there's one mandatory double-face common or uncommon in every single pack. And so you could have, in theory, open 4 uncommons. There's 3 uncommons in every pack, 9 commons, and those are not double face cards. Those are just whatevers. And so if you do up the math, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 9 commons. That's 14. My understanding is the last slot, the 15th slot, it's either 33% chance of a basic land, a 33% chance of their new special artwork basic land, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's called. But there's a new special artwork for basic lands in this set, and then there's a 33% chance of a common dual land, white-green. I mean, there's 10 of them, right? Let me check. Yeah, there's 10 of them. Then it's these. It's the ones that gain life. All the color combinations for those. So these are all in it, and so on average, you're gonna open between 1 and 3 of these per pool. But there's also an Uncharted Haven, and there's some colorless mana fixing. So the idea of most of your sealed decks being 2 colors plus splashing your best 2 cards of another color is probably going to be the case here as well. So having said that, let's move on to the gold card, just to try to get an anchor to see what the overall color combinations are trying to do. Because generally, they try to make the uncommon color pairings cards be like what the color is about. So we're looking at Boros here as the first one. A Sorry Captain, 5 cost 4/3 haste. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/0 until end of turn for each samurai or warrior you control. So by itself, it's a 5/3 haste, right? Maybe you get a 6/3 out of it if you have another fellow that's not attacking. Could be okay. It seems kind of whatever. 3 toughness is not a whole lot. And it's kind of weird if you go if you have another, say, 3/2 samurai in play, 3/2 warrior, whatever. You play this, and if you just attack with a 3/2, it becomes a 5/2. And they just trade it with anything they have. This doesn't look great to me. I mean, you're gonna play it if you're red-white, but as far as something you would splash for, pretty unlikely. And it's also samurai or warrior only, so there's a chance that the creature you attack alone doesn't even apply. I don't know. Not impressed. Colossal Sky Turtle. 4 green, blue, flying ward 2. 6/5. Okay, by itself, the card is gonna be an 8. Just it's probably a 9 though, because of the channels, which are Recollect, was just Recollect and unsummon. Yeah. 2 and a green channel. So channel is you just discard the card. So it's basically, they're basically split cards. Channel cards are secretly split cards. So you can play this as a 7 and a 6/5 flyer. It's also an enchantment, which is going to matter. Enchantment card types matter. You can return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And channels are instant speed. They're not spells, so your opponent can't counter it. Although there is one card in this set that's like a stifle that can maybe counter it. But your opponent can't counter it either. And then it's 2 mana, discard, return target creature. Yours or your opponent's. This card's just amazing. One of the best cards in the set. For sealed, I'm going to guess. If you're green, you're always you're splashing blue for this 100% of the time. Because even if you don't have blue mana, it's just Recollect. Right? Instant speed Recollect. Yeah, this card seems amazing. Yeah, it's just a 3-way split card. Basically, my rule is when it comes on rating cards, 10 is a card that's a bomb that kind of defines the seal. You're between 3 and 7 bombs in every set. Bombs have to not just be 1-for-1, right? Bombs have to be better than 1-for-1s. They have to have a huge overarching effect on the game or be like massive card advantage engines. This is not a 10. And generally, my baseline for 9s are at least cards that cannot be 1-for-1. And this card, as good as it is, as versatile as it is, it does just get 1-for-1. So I'm gonna have to put it as an 8. As much as I would like this to be an 8.5, this is as close to a 9 as you can get without being an 8, without being a 9. I think this card is quite good. You should almost always be splashing for this. In fact, I would say even if you're blue-black, you probably still play this. Because just for the channel, because there's probably going to be some raised deads in black that allow you to turn your raised deads into unsummons if you want them to be. Right? So I would expect this to... You would have to not be playing green or blue to not be playing this card in your pool. So you'd have to be playing like white-red, white-black, or red-black. So you're going to see this card a lot. Enthusiastic Mechanaut, 2-cost, 2/2 flying, artifact spells you cost 1 less to... The 1 less to cast is like not really very impressive in sealed. The 2-cost, 2/2 flyer is good. It's easy to cast, which is an upside. If you're not familiar with how mana works, and if you're a 2-color deck, it is easier to cast a gold card. Like a blue-red 2/2 is easier to cast than a blue-blue 2/2 or a red-red 2/2. I know that seems counterintuitive, and Wizards has sort of ingrained it into the psyche of players that gold cards should be more powerful than single-color cards because they're harder to cast. That's actually just not true. Gold cards are in general easier to cast than monocolored cards. So it's weird. It's weird that the gold cards are always better than monocolored cards, but I get it. They're trying to promote 2 colors. You're trying to, like, in draft, you open up this, like, oh, I want to be blue-red because this is a powerful card. I get why they're more powerful. Anyways, moving on. This card seems whatever. Historically, there was a, what was it called? I think it was called Warden of Evos Isle. Yeah, Warden of Evos Isle. This fellow, creatures flying cost. Now, artifacts are, I mean, you're probably going to have like 6 or 7 artifacts in your deck, and the decks with flying generally has 6 or 7 flyers in their deck. I would consider this to be pretty similar, and Warden of Evos Isle was almost unplayable. But it costing 1 less is a big deal. It being an artifact is probably a big deal. So I'll go ahead and put this as a, I'll put this as a 7. I don't think it's actually better than a Sorry Captain is a thing. But if you're actually blue-red, if you're blue-red with artifacts, this is gonna be better. This is gonna be a 7. But if you're not blue-red with artifacts, it's gonna be worse than a Sorry Captain. It's gonna be like a 5. It's whatever. Interestingly enough, on this Enthusiastic Mechanaut, it doesn't say minimum 1. So if you do have multiples of these, it's possible your artifacts just cost less to 0, which could be relevant. Gloom Shrieker, 1 black green, 2/1 menace. When enters the battlefield, return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. If it would die, exile it. They should put a word on that. If it would die, exile it. They should just put it on more cards. But I'm glad they have that line of text on here. It's really painful to play against these types of cards, and when your opponent can just rebuy Raised Deads and stuff. This card's great. This card's amazing. I like that a 2-1 Menace is actually like a real body. Much better than just a normal 2-1. It's just Eternal Witness, except it's also an enchantment. It doesn't have the best part of your Eternal Witness where, you can return... Basically, with Eternal Witness, you rebuy a Terminate almost every time, right? Terminate is just 2-mana destroy a creature. You generally rebuy removal spells with your things. This probably isn't going to rebuy very many. There's probably some removal spells that are permanents in this set, so you can rebuy. But where's Eternal Witness? Yeah, this is Eternal Witness. This is just a classic. So comparing it to that, and with the last line of text. I'm so glad it's there. It's so painful to play against value decks that have the way to recur this thing. But yeah, it's a solid 2-for-1. Maybe I just make it a 7. A 2-1 card is a body, but it's because Evolving Wilds is on the set. It's actually not a 3-drop. Weirdly enough, Evolving Wilds is a land that you can sacrifice that you generally play on turn 1. The search the library for a basic land and put it into play. Well, that card's not in this set. They decided to. Hopefully, for the future, they're not printing Evolving Wilds anymore. So this is actually probably not a 3-drop. So I'm actually gonna bump this down to a 7. Just because you're probably gonna want to play this on turn. This is probably a 5-drop. Like, I'm not sure this is better than a 3-cost 2-1 draw card. And in the previous sets, we've had access to cards like that, and I'm not sure this is better than that. So I'll put this as a 7 for now. Invigorating Hot Spring. Enters enchantment, 1 red-green. Enter battlefield with 4 counters on it, and modify creatures you control have haste. So this is the new thing for this set, and hopefully it's going to be for the future of Magic, where creatures are considered modified if they have an equipment, an aura, or a counter on them. And you can remove a counter from this and put a counter on one of your creatures once per turn at sorcery speed. Okay. So this is likely the best type of this effect they've ever made. The last one they made of this was actually unplayable, which was this one. I think Rhythm of the Wild. I mean, this modified Hot Spring is essentially an anthem, right? It's essentially an anthem with haste. You know what this card is missing? I wonder if this would be better if it had like a sacrifice clause once it had 0 counters or something. Like on your end step, if it has no counters, sacrifice it. This is way better than Rhythm of the Wild. It's not particularly close. Especially since Invigorating Hot Spring works the turn you put it into play. And you can just play all your creatures top deck this, and this is still going to be 4 counters over the next 3 turns. So this card is actually probably decent. I like that what it does is you can go 2-drop into this, and then you put a counter on your 2-drop, and then your opponent probably can't block it. And then the next turn you play a 4-drop, and you put a counter on it, and your opponent might not be able to block either of them. And that's a lot of damage. Your opponent's at 9 or 10, right there. Or even better, maybe like a 2-drop and a removal spell, and you give the 2-drop haste. And your opponent's at like 11. 10 or 11. And they're facing down lethal next turn. That seems pretty good. And the artwork is very good. It's probably better than Asari Captain. I'm going to say it's probably going to be better than Asari Captain. It's not Fire GFMI as much as it is Rhythm of War, right? Rhythm of the whatever. This thing. I think it's closer to this one. It's a way better top deck. 2-mana 2/2 lifelink, enchantment creature, enchant spells you cost 1 less to cast. Lifelink is always really strong and limited. So I'll put this as a 7. It's a pretty basic card. An excellent target to be suited up with some sort of aura that gives +3/+3 or something. So build your own Baneslayer on turn 3. Seems pretty good. This is a note that has been hit before in green-white. You know, green-white having 1 or 2 interactive spells, like 17 creatures and a couple of auras or equipment. This has been done before. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of enchantment creatures, so this might be a mana creature with lifelink, right? I don't know. I mean, obviously, it itself wouldn't even be reducted. Who knows how many enchantment creatures actually exist that can actually be, affected by the mana reduction. Naomi, Pillar of Order, 5 mana 4/4. Whenever this enters the battlefield or attacks, they should put a word to that almost, right? I mean, the Titans had that ability, right? I think it's a thing it's relatively common. I think they put it almost every set. But if you control an artifact and an enchantment, I'm not sure how the rules work if you have an artifact, a permanent that's both an artifact and enchantment, for instance, like the hammers. They actually made a cycle of cards that were constructed playable that were artifact enchantments, like Hammer, Perforos. I don't know how it works with that, whether they had to be separate permanents or not. I suspect they don't. But yeah, create a 2/2 white vigilance. Now, it's actually good that the creature that it's created is not attacking. It's kind of a complete coin flip on these cards, when they print them, whether the creature is attacking or not. I'm of the opinion that it's for sealed, at least. For constructed, no, but for sealed, it's better for the creature to not be attacking, because what happens is your opponent just has like a 2/3. You attack with this, you go through all the hoops, and you attack with this 4/4, and your opponent's like, okay, block the 2/2 idiot that's attacking, right? And you're like, oh, right? So this in making it not attacking is actually an upside. But I'm not impressed. That's a lot of hoops to go through. It's a lot of hoops to go through. I mean, what are the odds you even play this on turn 5 and it works? You have an artifact and an enchantment? I guess if you had an enchantment creature and like some sort of token artifact in play, maybe. Then it's like a 4/4 plus a 2/2. Maybe. I mean, it's better than a Sorry Captain. It's better than a Sorry Captain. Maybe it's something that pays, so maybe it's at least an 8. But the problem is that this is a tall order. Having an artifact and an enchantment in play is a pretty tall order. Well, the thing is, it's an ETB ability. If it was just an attack ability, I'd put it as like a 5 or a 6. The fact that it's an ETB ability, which is enter the battlefield ability, I'll give it some credit. There's some enchantment creatures too, right? So the enchantments is probably the harder one to get. Having random equipment or artifacts in play is probably not terribly hard. It's just having an enchantment in play is going to be the issue. Legendary is not downside in sealed. Oni Cult Anvil. Whenever one or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn, create a 1/1 colorless artifact creature token. Well, this reminds me of a card in the past. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah, the Mighty Hidden Stockpile. This led to games lasting forever. Forever. Your opponent is always just gonna, like, they can attack with their 3 creatures. You block one of them, they sack the one that gets blocked, they scry 1, they put land on the bottom, they draw a spell every turn, they get a 1/1 back, the one that they attacked with, that you blocked and they sacked. Same thing here. Although the game is going to end sooner because this one drains instead of scry 1. This is either really good or unplayable, right? I think if you have like 4 artifacts, the card just seems unplayable to me, right? So I'm gonna assume this card is probably not where you want to be. I think if you have at least 3 artifacts with at least play abilities, maybe you play this. But I suspect you don't play it. I suspect you don't play it, but you can't eat the 1/1s. You're right. If you can get the first colorless construct artifact creature, if you can get the first one, then it's a 2 mana permanent that just drains your opponent for 1 every turn. Maybe. You think it's good? You have to have things you want to sacrifice to it, though. You're not gonna have that many cards that you want to not have in your deck, are you? Oh yeah, I mean, Ilgon Inheritance was almost a 10. The card you were referring to, if you never played in the past, which was really underestimated at the time, was called Ill-Gotten Inheritance, which was a common. And the Ill-Gotten Inheritance was like a 9.5 out of 10. It was a common that was almost the best card in the set. O'Neill called Anvil is trying to make you think that's what it is, but it's really not. I don't think it is. And your opponent can just like kill the 1/1, and then this card just doesn't do anything. Like you'd have to get another token somewhere. It's only during your turn that it makes the 1/1. Although I like it's not an end of turn trigger, so your opponent can't mess around with that like Revolt. Like even if it's your end of turn step and they kill this, you still get the 1/1, right? Prodigy's prototype. Whenever one or more vehicles you control attack, create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token, which this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Well, something to note is that it doesn't crew the pilot doesn't crew vehicles as if it had power 2. It crews vehicles as though it were 2 greater. So a 1/1 pilots at 3, a 3/3 would pilot at 5. Or 3/1 would pilot at 5, whatever. It's like a vehicle lord, which is kind of cool. If multiple vehicles attack, you only get 1 pilot. This seems okay. The 4 toughness makes it so it's your first attack is probably good. But it's trying to be a Brimaz, right? It's trying to be a Brimaz. And Brimaz is kind of whatever. At least the creature doesn't attack. Yeah, the thing is, how many vehicles... The vehicle lord aspect of this card is pretty unlikely. We've had vehicle sets in the past, and you generally... There was... what was it? It was some sort of freight, right? Basically, they made a vehicle deck... A vehicle Renegade Freighter, that's what it was. Every single vehicle is going to be compared to Renegade Freighter, which was the cornerstone common of the format. And I'm thinking every single vehicle in the set is going to be worse than Renegade Freighter, which is good, because we don't want cards like Renegade Freighter, like colorless 9 out of 10 cards in the format. We don't want that. This card seems whatever. You're not going to have more than 2 or 3 vehicles in your deck, and you're probably not going to be able to crew both of them immediately. So... After your first attack, you'll be able to with this, I suppose. The card seems fine. Yeah, I'm not sure this is better than the Raiders Carve. This card does not seem better than Raiders Carve. You're right. What was it? It was a Carve, right? Yeah, Raiders Carve. It doesn't seem better than Raiders Carve to me. Raiders Carve like ran people over so fast. If if this thing ever hit a land, it was just lights out. That's not what this card looks like. And then we have Silver Fur Master Ninjutsu. Okay, so Ninjutsu is back. Blue-black Ninjutsu. Ninjutsu activates abilities cost 1 less to activate, whatever. Other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. Yeah, this card seems good. Splinter, yeah. Card seems good. It hits ninjas and rogues. Who knows how many of those are in the set? Probably most blue and black creatures are going to be either a ninja or a rogue, right? Alright, so let's look at the gold cards that we've seen. So red-white, there seems to be a theme of attacking alone, or maybe some sort of samurai or warrior thing. So samurais and warriors are going to be maybe more valuable. The green-blue theme is value channel, I suppose. So we should keep a lookout. If channel is a thing, then things that return permanents or things that return enchantments are things that get a lot more valuable because you're much more likely to have those types of cards in your deck, in your graveyard. Some's a blue-red artifact theme. Some sort of... I don't know what this is trying to imply, but this is really good with ninjutsu, right? Because it says if it would die, exile it, not if it would leave play. So if you can ninjutsu this, it's really good. So black ninjas are probably quite valuable. And the fact that it has menace means it's probably pretty easy for this to be ninjutsu'd. So probably something... This is more of a ninja card than anything. Because you can't return this to your hand, because it exiles itself if it's in the graveyard, right? Red-green has some sort of modified theme. Not sure what to gather from that. Jukai Naturalist has some sort of enchantment thing going on. This has an enchantment. If you have an artifact and an enchantment, do something. So token enchantments and token artifacts get a lot more valuable because you're gonna need cards that trigger off them, right? Oni Cult Anvil. I don't know what to think about this. I suspect this card's not great. You know, the fact that it only works on your turn, and the fact that I see this one, you know, when I see something like this, I'm like, I don't want anything to do with a card that aspires to drain one a turn when your opponent can just have like a Baneslayer on turn 4 or turn 5 whenever they want, right? I don't know. Not impressed. So maybe some sort of vehicle thing. I'm not a huge fan of vehicle themes. They are completely hit or miss when in sealed. You'll get the vehicle draws, you'll get the non-vehicle draws. This doesn't seem like an amazing payoff to me. And Ninjutsu, this is a pretty good payoff and pretty good card. Something to keep in mind in this set with ninjas existing is that if you have an instant, you don't want to play your instance on your opponent's turn in the blocker step. For instance, you know, your opponent is attacking with a Grizzly Bear, like a 2/2, and it's unblocked, and you have like a destroy an attacking creature card in your hand. If you want to kill the creature, do it during the declare attacker step. Because if you try to do something during the declare blocker step, your opponent can ninjutsu and fizzle your spell and counter it. So we don't want to do that. Or maybe you're trying to next level them and you're waiting for them to ninjutsu and then you kill the ninja. That seems pretty hard to do on Arena. I'm just saying, you always know if your opponent has an instant on Arena because of the way stops are set up. Like it would auto pass if they had nothing, right? So maybe on MTGO you can next level somebody, but on Arena you're probably not gonna next level anybody. So that's gold. So let's go ahead and now that we know the themes of the set, we can go ahead and move on to evaluating some colors.